In the last video on Drift Truck V2, we got the interior back together. New seats, new brackets, and the dash fitted around the roll cage. Now we did this so that we could start working on the steering in this video. With the S13 subframe and steering rack, we have to make an entirely new custom steering column. It's gonna be multi-pieces, lots of U-joints, lots of heim joints. It has to fit around the large exhaust manifold, all without binding or having any issues that way. Without any further ado, let's get into it. So I'm thinking something like that. At the very least, we're gonna have to remove the O2 sensor bung here, cut the header back a bit more so that we have room to do kind of a turn and then down. So that should be good. And the thing that we have to keep in mind is the angles of every U-joint. U-joints can only be angled a certain amount before they start binding. And actually, this and the railing unit both had issues with that. But I just kind of sent it and let it wear itself out, and it did kind of work, but we want to not do that. So there's that slice. Now we're gonna mark a nice big square to cut out so that we have some room to work around with. And then we'll eventually make a plate for the steering shaft to go through the stock gasket. And then we'll have to make a block off plate for the factory hole. You can see how much lower this steering shaft is coming in compared to the other one, which is what's gonna give us issues. So this is where our first issue occurs. We've got our Speedway steering column. It's like a universal steering column. Got some fancy parts on it. Keep in mind, this is the shortest steering shaft they offer. There was one that was 2 feet longer than this. Don't know why you'd ever need that. But obviously we want the steering wheel to be something like this, you know, nice and flat towards me. Kind of far away. I don't like, you know, driving like this. Some race cars are like that, but not me. But see, when I have it like here, there's no way the end of this steering shaft, this steering column, is gonna get all the way down to the steering shaft. It has to be pointed more like this. Then it feels like I'm driving a bus. You know, like flat steering wheel. I don't want that. So what we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to shorten this so that the end is much farther up and so that it can be a 3-piece steering shaft. Steering column, intermediary bar, and then bar into the steering rack. Hey yo, hey yo. This one will have a U-joint right here, and then it'll be kind of coming up to here, which will then have a U-joint kind of going back like that. So I'm gonna have to mount this bar to that down there, this bar probably to this sheet right here, and then the top bar off of the cage. The one thing about me having never done this before is that it's exciting, it's fun. It's a little nerve-wracking because I feel like I'm gonna mess something up, but here goes nothing. Oh. Might help if you plug it in. There you go, that was my mess up, all right? Got the mess up out of my system, and now after this, it's gonna be perfect. Flawless steering shaft. So I cut a little mount for this heim joint here, taped it on for now. I think this is it's a good spot where I think I can fish the exhaust through here. Now we're gonna drop it down and see what it looks like from the inside. Looking too low.
I'm too low.
I need it to be as high as physically possible. Nice. So I mean, obviously it's not ideal to have a turn right on the merge, but no matter what, these headers are gonna be way better than the old ones, because the old ones were like a log manifold header and tiny and just trash. But that's as much as we can cut until we have to start modifying the runners. So hopefully we can fit it around this. This metal right here actually came with these headers. We're not gonna use it on the final exhaust because it's mild steel and I don't wanna do that. But we can kind of cut up some pie cuts so we can at least see if it's gonna be possible to fit the exhaust around the steering. A worst case scenario, we might have to make a little notch in the tube, which is fine if it's small. Do a lot of pie cuts, that's also fine. I mean, either way, we're gonna have to make it work with the exhaust because steering can't move, exhaust can. Yeah, about that. It's like kind of close. You can probably do that with pie cuts, to be honest. It's definitely pie cuttable. I'm happy with how the mount looks. Well, it's straight to the frame on a tube, like that looks pretty sick. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten all the knuckle here. And it's technically adjustable too, because the heim joint can come in and out. Hey, yo! Keep going if I wanted to. There we go, that's full lock right there. And it felt smooth. I mean, I'm using a wrench, but I want the next shaft to be about here to there, here to there. And then the steering column just be like right here. So I think what we're gonna do now is instead of building the middle piece, we're gonna build the steering column, mount this, and then build the middle piece to connect the two. Pretty much, I think what we've decided is that we have to make this as short as possible in order for all the angles to line up. So the way we're gonna mount the steering column, it's got two mounts that came with, actually no, I had to buy them separately. We're gonna plasma cut a plate right here that is ovaled left to right, so I can slide it left to right. So the steering column will be able to come forward, backwards, left, right, and then it'll tilt left and right too. When I installed the steering column on the Rally Miata, I just solid mounted it, and it was crooked. And it's been crooked ever since. Don't wanna do that. Man, that drives me insane. But then we'll just weld a tube from that plate up to the dash bar, which is in there. Voila, we're gonna have a fucking sick arse steering column. It's a little too challenging to get the steering column kind of like jigged up in place where it feels good. So I'm just gonna weld it, tack together. Hopefully it's good. If not, I have to cut the tacks and try again. This is Gingium Fab, ladies and gents. You can see, I don't know if you can see, steering wheel's a little bit lower than I want it to be right now. So what I'm gonna do is kind of tilt it more like this, but it's hitting this dash piece. So I'm gonna cut the dash out in here real quick. In terms of what I feel, it feels perfect. I can perfectly see the gauge cluster through the middle. It feels very comfortable. I can just imagine tossing this through my hands. That's good right there. Oh, that's awesome. It's like, wah, da, 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 da. Wah, wah, da, da, da. So now we have to shorten the steering shaft because obviously that cannot reach that. Although you can't really tell that badly on camera, but that's completely vertical. So we have to cut off 203 millimeters. Pretty much cut it in half, almost. But we're gonna take a break for a second because it's lunchtime. And instead of going out to eat, wasting money, wasting time, we've got some meals right here in the fridge from this video sponsor, Factor. Spicy poblano beef for me and some chicken for Kurt, plus 2 smoothies. Factor is an online meal delivery service that delivers fresh, never frozen meals straight to your doorstep. It's super easy to prepare. Put a couple holes in the plastic to vent it, and then cook it in the microwave or the oven for a few minutes. Ooh, it's a little spicy, that's good. Now Factor has 34 or more chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly meals. So there's always something new to try. They have a bunch of different categories like keto, calorie conscious, vegan and veggie, or protein plus if you're trying to get those gains. For instance, this right here, 580 calories. It's healthy, it's delicious, and it couldn't be easier. I've been loving Factor because it's been saving time here at the shop. I mean, normally it takes us like an hour to go get food, bring it back, eat it, but now it's like a 15-minute operation. Now, not only does Factor have meals, but they also have more than 45 add-ons. Things like smoothies, breakfast items, extra filling protein add-ins like salmon fillet or chicken wings to add to your meals. So you can really customize your box to be whatever you want it to be. I've been really enjoying one of their smoothies every morning to go along with coffee. This thing has 0 added sugars, 4 grams of protein, and 4 grams of dietary fiber, and it's delicious. But the best part about Factor is that it's way cheaper than getting food out at a restaurant. So if you guys are ready to get Factor and enjoy clean eating without the hassle, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code Gingium50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Yet again, that is Gingium50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's a killer deal. Now I'm gonna go ahead and continue enjoying my lunch, and then we can get back to the video. But you should be able to take this lock nut out, then slide the shaft out. Oh. Cut and shorten that, and then cut and shorten this after we, you don't have to take the bearings out, the bearings back in. It's really just a tube of bearings with a smaller tube on the inside. Now just to test the uncut shaft, fits in there nicely. So now we have to cut the shaft. It's a little bit more precarious because, well, we can't warp it. It has to be perfectly straight, otherwise it's gonna bind. So just like the axle when we shortened it. We gotta smooth it out, bevel it, and then we're gonna put it in a jig to keep it straight while we tack it together. Oh, nope, already fucked. God damn it. It's touching the bottom over here, so now it's super crooked. Damn it. This thing is gonna be a trouble. So this is what happens when it's crooked. It's much tighter, and it's only tight in one spot. It still rotates, I mean, probably be fine, but we can do it right. Another good way to test to see if something's straight, you roll it. Looks pretty straight to me. Beautiful. Voila. Gotcha. Yeah, let's see. Not exactly happy with this blinker kit, but it is a blinker. The problem is that it's a super aggressive turn signal angle, so I'm gonna have to put another quick release on it, which we did not account for that when we shortened the shaft. So I think the steering wheel is gonna be too close to me. But let's see what it looks like in the vehicle at least. That feels pretty good. So like right blinker, and then left blinker, turn left, and then, that's nice. I mean, it's nice for just normal driving, but when you're drifting and throwing hands, this is gonna get in the way. This has to be farther back. So that means we have to move the steering column farther back and then use a quick release to space the steering wheel closer to me. But you know what that means? It means we have to shorten the shaft more. So pretty much everything we just did, we gotta redo. Before we just do it, I'm gonna test our theory. I've got a spare quick release sitting around, so. So now, as you can tell, clearance for the blinker is great. But it's exactly what I was talking about earlier. It feels like a NASCAR truck where the steering wheel is like right up in your face. I don't like that. In order to fix that, give me the T27. Thank you. And now, steering shaft's too long at the back. Angle's too sharp, so the U-joints won't work. That's cool. But gonna have to cut it again. If I've learned anything, it's that steering, like driving position, is the single most important thing to enjoying a car on the street. So we're gonna do it right, even though it sucks that we have to redo all of this. So one of the cool things is that the factory steering column surround fits with a little modification. It does need to be mounted because the factory mounts are gone. But when it's in the right spot, clears perfectly, and the blinker works perfectly as well. OEM steering column for race car. Let's go. So now the last couple things to do are to build a bar that connects right here to down here, like so. And then we have to mount said bar. Admittedly, I cut the shaft too short, and I didn't have enough to make a new piece, so I gotta take 2 pieces of scrap and weld them together to make it longer. It is working, it's connected. Now, maybe technically it would be fine like this, but the problem is that this centerpiece is not braced at all. And the only reason why it's working decently is because the top and the bottom one is braced pretty good. So we are going to put 2 more Heim joints in here. I'm actually gonna build a mount off of the old steering rack hole, and that will both cover up the hole and mount the new steering column. So think of that as a win-win. So the entire steering shaft is complete. As you can tell, it works. It feels pretty good. There's a couple spots that are a little stiff. Everything will break in a tad after driving it for a bit, and once there's power steering, it should be fine. I mean, it feels pretty good. Honestly, the biggest problem right now is that the quick release, not the NRG quick release, but the other quick release has a little bit of play in it, so it's got a little bit of play right there, which stinks, but you know. It's also just tacked together at the bottom at least, so you know, that is also something to note. I want to put it on the ground and see how it feels steering on the ground. This will be the first experience getting in the truck at ride height with like the cage and everything. So it's like, oh yeah, it's like the cage isn't even there. That's nice. I mean, the fact that was pretty easy to do with no power steering. Now I can't hit full lock because I need to clearance things first, but I'd say that's pretty good. And there's not really any play in the system either. I mean, there's like a little, but even that, like you can see the wheels moving a tad.
Yeah.
So, heck yeah. And now look, oh, and when it's moving, that feels like a truck again, being able to move it and steer it at the same time. This is awesome. And with that, this video is complete. The steering on the truck turned out awesome. I had a blast making it because I've never done this before, and so it was a learning experience. In the next one, I think we're gonna start working on the rear mount radiator, maybe the fuel tank as well. Those are the two big things remaining. If you want to support the channel, you can check out Patreon, where you'll get early access to the next video, or you can check out the merch. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.